that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coon. The white man to go nuts if he can't shoot. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation.
It's the one and only queen of receipts, the dropping gems in these YouTube streets, the lawyer Royce, nowhere to go. Tune in for the infamous morning show, giving the news that you need to know. So don't you dare miss the wake-up call. Then in the evening, I got all for y'all. Get your dose of daily vitamins. You know the queen makes it make sense. So true. Sex game, my kick, the words, my faith, can't even only be money saves. It's like an earthquake, I'm calling you out. Queen of close to head, just get it from the bound. Such a nice place, just a more for all.
Calling a bitch.
I'm calling you a bitch.
You ain't calling me no bitch.
Because you fucking up the stove and can't clean up behind your
I'm not cleaning your dirty, caked up ass stove.
Fuck this bullshit.
You go get your fan there. You mad because you been seeing the fan in there. Calling a bitch.
I'm calling you a bitch.
You ain't calling me no bitch.
Because you
Ben ne çok hediye edin geldim Allah. Ana sen
Beyonce. Joe Biden is asleep. Kamala is at a dance party with Beyonce. 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 Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. 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 Party with Beyonce. 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 Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Kamala.
Looking just like Kamala. All right, so hello everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Dr._A Shakur, TikTok at Dr. A Shakur, and Twitter at DGoddess27. And as per usual, if you don't like what the Queen is cooking, you already know what to do. Okay, so let's see who's in here. Danielle, Most Hated Bronze Flat Power God, Dragon Lily, G from the Land, Khalid is here. All right, Buckhorse DC, Claudette, Swift, All Hell No, Fat Boo is in the house, Witty T. All right, let's get into it. All Hell No said, not the church at. Okay, he was wrong for it. All right, April is here, Luna Walker. All right, let's get into it. Shout out to everyone in chat. I see you, we the people. Lovely T is in the house. Okay, so let's get into it. Everyone, please hit that like button. It doesn't cost you a single thing. You can do it all for free. Locked Vegan is here. Okay, so shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Deronda. All right, let's get this party started, honey. Let's get it started. Pensy Lola 504 Nola is in the house. RX and Omar. I hope I said that right. All right, love from Djibouti, East Africa. I hope I said that right. Well, shout out to you. Okay, Marnita is here. James Allen. All right, let's get it started. So first things first. Now, you all know that we have been hearing a lot about, the government talking about aliens and UFOs, all right, and UAPs and all of that lately, in which I find it all interesting. Hey, Red White Entertainment, I find it all interesting because previously, these things were denied for decades. So why all of a sudden are they talking about it now? Okay, so we're about to find out. All right, so with that all being said, I'm going to share my screen because this came out yesterday. The U.S. UFO hearing live from the ex-Pentagon official says the government is hiding evidence of UAPs. And for those of you who don't know what UAPs is, that's unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Okay, and this was reported yesterday. So let's get into it and see what they're talking about here. All right, likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
As well, but have no real confidential way of reporting them to the government. We heard that commercial pilots who encounter UAPs may be hesitant to speak openly due to stigma or fear of retaliation. We also know that Arrow has reported that, and I want to quote, that most reports still reflect a bias towards restricted military airspace, a result of reporting from military personnel and sensors present in such areas. And so the lack of ability for civilian pilots raises real safety concerns and limits our ability to understand UAPs. This is a particular piece of this conversation that I am very interested in. Now, our last hearing inspired us to introduce the Safe Airspace for Americans Act, joined by Chairman Grothwin, Chairwoman Mace, and a bipartisan group of co-sponsors. I see some of our leaders from Safe Airspace for Americans Act here, and that would create a safe reporting for UAP process, which we want to continue to do. Now, members of both parties and senior officials in multiple administrations have now taken an interest in this issue. Mainstream media, in many cases, are beginning to take more of an interest in this issue, and we should all be proud to carry that work and build confidence for the American people. I believe we can always be more transparent. To me, this hearing and others are simply about the truth and getting to the facts of what these UAPs actually are. It's very important that we show that Democrats and Republicans in Congress can work together to cut through misinformation and look for a serious and thoughtful way to have the discussion in public. Many of us have also called for additional public hearings to discuss UAPs. This should be a topic that continues on throughout the Congress so that we can gather more information, data, and work with the relevant agencies to gather more information. Finally, just want to add that those that are here on this dais, many of us have participated also in classified briefings as well, and where we have also gained a lot of important, I think, and interesting information, at least I personally have. And so with that information, we want to continue today's hearing, and I thank all of our witnesses for being here. And with that, I'd like to yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And I'd now like to recognize Mr. Grothman for a 5-minute introduction.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank our witnesses for being here one more time. This is a topic I've been interested in since 8th grade. I'd like to thank Ms. Mace for working with me on this topic and for making this a joint subcommittee hearing. Last year, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border and Foreign Affairs held an historic hearing to understand the potential national security risk of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. We heard from former Navy Commander David Fravor, who shared firsthand experience with a UAP engaged while on duty in the Pacific. We learned from David Gresh, a former member of the intelligence community, who revealed the supposed existence of secret government programs hidden from congressional oversight. Additionally, former military pilot Ryan Graves informed us of the limited ways in which the military and commercial pilots can report UAP sightings. Since that last hearings, I've led several briefings with government agencies to deepen my understanding with these issues. First, the Department of Defense Inspector General's office informed us that the Department of Defense does not have a streamlined process for service members to report UAP activity. Since then, the Joint Chiefs have implemented standards for UAP reporting across the services. The Intelligence Community Inspector General informed us that whistleblowers often fear retaliation for reporting mismanagement of highly sensitive government projects or information. Finally, AARO has expressed to the committee that, like any other federal government agency, it's faced challenges in its establishment, specifically in hiring staff to manage UAP historical records and coordinating with other federal agencies. Well, these agencies have been helpful to us in understanding the challenges that come from collecting UAP data. None of them have been able to substantiate the claims made at this hearing last year by David Grush. Despite our committee members endlessly questioning these agencies inside and outside of a SCIF. I hope our witnesses today will be able to provide evidence and content that is worthwhile to our pursuits of eliminating government waste and increasing transparency. To help alleviate some of the roadblocks, I'm supportive of measures that were included in last year's National Defense Authorization Act to increase transparency and improve record-keeping measures when it comes to UAPs. But I believe there's still more work to go. I co-led the Safe Airspace for Americans Act with Ranking Member Garcia, which requires the Federal Aviation Administration to develop procedures to collect UAP data from civilian aviators. I look forward to working with members of Congress to see that this legislation and other UAP legislation crosses the finish line. I'm deeply alarmed by the reporting of the massive drone swarm that flew over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia last December. Langley is the home of the 1st Fighter Wing, which maintains half of the F-22s in the U.S. Air Force inventory. Reports of this incident indicate these drones were roughly 20 feet long, flying more than 100 miles an hour at an altitude of over 3,000 feet. Yet the origin of these drones and their operators remains a mystery. This incident and other sightings near sensitive military installations highlights the complexity of the UAP challenge facing our intelligence, defense, and homeland security committees. Whether these phenomena are the result of foreign adversaries developing advanced technologies or something else entirely, we must take them seriously, investigate them thoroughly, and assess their implications on national defense. The repeated UAP sightings around sensitive military sites underscores the need for innovative defensive strategies beyond traditional measures. They also highlight the urgent need for updated policies to address emerging threats, as well as more effective interagency cooperation and intelligence sharing. However, none of this is going to be possible without transparency. For far too long, critical information about UAPs has been either classified or ignored, leaving the American public and key congressmen without clarity needed to make informed decisions. Declassifying reports and fostering a more open dialogue about UAPs will not only increase the public trust, but also encourage collaboration between government, the scientific community, and our allies. Quite frankly, there's been things that have been kept secret that is, I think, old enough that there is no reason it shouldn't be released.
Okay, listen, guys, I'm going to pause this for a second because I just see that they're saying live. It's showing live, and we're going to get to it because NATO confirms possibility of World War III and Russia threatens nuclear strikes. Hold on, let me see what's going on here. This is all crazy. This is from like about 8 hours ago. Hold on, let me see what they're talking about. The last thing they need to do is start a war with Russia. Okay, so let's go to this real quick and see what's going on here. Claudette said, here we go. Okay, it's all crazy.
It's the economies that win wars. Great power competition. All instruments of power can and will be used. We're seeing that with the growing number of sabotage acts. And Europe has seen that with energy supply. We thought we had a deal with Gazprom, but we actually had a deal with Mr. Putin. And the same goes for Chinese-owned infrastructure and goods. We actually have a deal with Xi. 60% of all rare earth materials are produced in China, and 90% is processed in China. 90% of the chemical ingredients for sedatives, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and low blood pressure medicines come from China. We are naive if we think the Communist Party will never use that power. Business leaders in Europe and America need to realize that the commercial decisions they make have strategic consequences for the security of their nation. Businesses need to be prepared for a wartime scenario and adjust their production and distribution lines accordingly. Because while it may be the military who wins battles, it's the economies that win wars.
Okay. I'm going to go to what it says. I'm laughing at Luna saying Putin found out Jesus was so-called black. Now he's not playing with these fools. Hold on. Let me go to the report. Okay, so here's what it says. Biden isn't escalating the war in Ukraine. He's doing the right thing. Okay, the president's justified overdue but probably too late authorization. His justified overdue but probably too late authorization to Ukraine isn't pushing us toward World War III. Now they say this week President Joe Biden authorized Ukraine to strike inside Russia using long-range American missiles. It's an overdue, relatively small escalation after Russia's bigger escalations and relentless attacks, letting Ukraine partially take the gloves off. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky officially requested this in May and presumably asked in private before that. It will help Ukraine hinder Russia's war machine by striking ammunition depots, weapons manufacturing in airfields, and other military targets. Now, the apparent cause is the U.S. election. President-elect Donald Trump has long shown a strong affinity for Russian leader Vladimir Putin and reacted to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022 by gushingly calling it savvy and genius. In subsequent years, Trump, his incoming Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and top surrogate donor advisor Elon Musk have all advocated a peace plan for Ukraine that amounts to give Putin what he wants. While Biden's lifting restrictions on Ukraine is probably too late to make a big difference, it could cause some disruption to Russia's war effort and improve Ukraine's position before Trump tries to force them into a Russia-friendly deal. Knowing that the United States is about to have a pro-Putin president makes Biden's caution look awful in hindsight, but it looked excessive at the time as well. Caution made sense early in the war since we didn't have a good read on Russian capabilities. And keeping NATO forces out of direct combat with Russia still makes sense, since that could trigger an escalatory spiral that spins out of control or at least undermine political support for Ukraine in NATO countries. But in early 2004, after 2 years of war, it was apparent that Russia was doing everything they could think of to defeat Ukraine and wasn't keeping a large military capacity in reserve, except, of course, for nuclear weapons. But those are checked by mutually assured destruction and the global nuclear taboo. Russia fears World War III, just like everyone else, as well as alienating the large countries that it still gets along with, namely China and India. Russia has never attacked weapons shipments on their way to Ukraine, showing that no matter their rhetoric, their actions respect NATO deterrence. By contrast, Israel has bombed Hezbollah-bound weapon shipments inside Syria for years. But Russia bluffs a lot. They annexed occupied parts of Ukraine and declared that any counterattack would cause nuclear war. Now, Ukrainian forces kept coming, so they took some territory back, and Russia did little in response. They convinced Elon Musk that a Ukrainian attack on Russian ships off the coast of Crimea would cause World War III, and Musk cut off Starlink internet services to thwart a Ukrainian sea drone attack in progress. Shortly after, Ukraine hit Russian ships near Crimea without using Starlink, and Russia did little in response. So Ukraine has used U.S.-provided missiles to attack Russian military targets in occupied parts of Ukraine. They've used Ukrainian-made drones to attack inside Russia, including an air base nearly 2,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. And in response, Russia didn't do anything it wasn't already doing. Now, there is a possibility that longer-range strikes with U.S. missiles would require U.S. satellites for targeting. But since Russia didn't offer a response to U.S. missile strikes on Russian forces in Ukraine or Ukrainian strikes inside Russia, it's unlikely that Ukrainian strikes with U.S. missiles inside Russia represents a red line that they'd be risking everything over it. As a matter of international law, Ukraine using U.S. missiles to attack inside Russia is cut and dry. Russia started the war without provocation and could stop at any time, but chooses to continue. As the clear aggressor, Russia is in material breach of the UN Charter, and under the right of self-defense, Ukraine is legally allowed to fire at Russian military targets, including inside Russia. And Russia is responsible for a much bigger escalation this year, with thousands of North Korean troops joining their war effort. Russia had already been using Iran-provided drones, and North Korea provided artillery shells in Ukraine, much as Ukraine is using weapons from NATO countries. But the North Korean troops are the only foreign state forces to directly intervene. Now, after Biden's announcement and Ukraine's first use, Russia launched a new ballistic missile at the densely populated Ukrainian city of Dnipro, which Putin claimed was in retaliation for Ukraine shooting American and British missiles into Russia. Now, it reportedly injured at least 3 people and damaged some buildings. The Ukrainians are unsurprisingly shrugged since Russia shoots missiles, kamikaze drones, and glide bombs at them every night, usually causing more damage. 2 days before the ballistic missile attack, Russian drones killed 12 civilians and injured 13 more. So while the missile technology represents an escalation, it's mostly more of the same, attacking Ukrainians in an attempt to terrorize them into submission. For mourners, the weapon Russia used to kill their loved ones doesn't matter. And if Russia could use these weapons to defeat the Ukrainian military and enable Russian ground forces to overrun the country, they would. The new weapon is at intermediate range, about 620 miles to 1,860 miles. Ballistic missile called an Oreshnik, capable of carrying nuclear warheads, though this isn't one, and was at least as much nuclear saber rattling against the West as an attack on Ukraine. For that reason, Russia probably would have used it anyway at some point, finding some excuse. There's no intimidation factor for a new weapon if you don't show it off. Okay, well, after a day after the launch, Putin announced that Russia will mass produce the Oreshnik Oreshnik and develop a whole line of similar missiles. That's mostly a bluff, at least in the short term, since Russian defense manufacturing is already straining trying to feed the war in Ukraine, but it does represent yet another nuclear threat. Now, they say female fighters take up arms in Ukraine. What's really going on here? Hold on. So they have the women out there fighting too? That's what it says. Musk on the phone with Trump is signal that Ukraine may need to compromise, according to a national security expert. Let me tell you all something. At the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, Ukraine just needs to go ahead and just give up. They just need to give up because, for one, at the end of the day, after Trump gets in office, he's not going to be giving them all that money and stuff, I don't think. So then what are they going to do? I mean, right now, they're holding on by a thread. Please pay attention. But let's go to this report.
David Rode, NBC News senior executive editor for national security. His new book, a terrific one, is titled Where Tyranny Begins, the Justice Department, the FBI, and the War on Democracy. David, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you. As you well know, Trump previously said he would end
J. King Cool says, so black people should give up too. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. We don't have anything to do with this. Okay. That's totally apples and oranges.
Russia's war in Ukraine on day one. There are no reports yet of him speaking with Vladimir Putin this week. Do you read anything into him handing Elon Musk the phone during the Zelensky call?
It was extraordinary. Musk has been a huge supporter of President Trump, and Musk has, played a role. He initially backed the Ukrainian government by giving them Starlink, but then, limited the access to Starlink. So it was a very brief encounter. My colleague Dan DeLue's got some more detail that essentially Musk walked into the room, said hello on the phone, and then left the room. But it's, I think, a sign to Zelensky that, he has got to compromise. And there's various plans that have been put out there, none of them specific, but all of them look bad for Ukraine. They would essentially have to give up the territory it has now and give up NATO membership in exchange for the war to end.
Which is very superficially that description, which I had not read, that he just walked in. I mean, it could be just kind of some braggadocio, right, on Trump's part. Oh, look, Elon Musk just came in. Say hello to, Vladimir Zelensky, and then leaves. It could be that simple.
Well, but it's also a way to say it was impromptu and it wasn't planned, but there's a message there. I mean, he is the world's richest man. He blocked the Ukrainians from using Starlink to carry out certain attacks near Crimea. Maybe those Ukrainian attacks were, too aggressive, but it's amazing to have a private company and the world's richest man who then backed Trump for president, who is called for, who opposes US aid to Ukraine. That's a signal to Zelensky. Asked to compromise.
Yeah, 100%. There is an underlying message, however it came about. Okay, so the French newspaper Le Monde, it declared Trump's re-election the end of an American world. President Macron told European leaders that Trump was elected to defend the interests of Americans. So the question Europeans must ask is, are they ready to defend the interests of Europeans? Give me, David, your sense of Europe's concerns now.
It's clearly NATO, and it's back to Russia. I mean, the aggressiveness of the invasion of Ukraine and the aggressiveness of the Biden administration's support of Ukraine was the post-World War II order that the U.S. would help Western Europe defend itself from an aggressive Russia. Trump is ending that. Trump has said that, Ukraine has to defend itself. It's a much more isolationist program. And given, I guess, economic issues in the U.S. that appealed to voters. But the key thing will be, how does Trump end the war in Ukraine in a single day? How will Americans, view a triumph for Putin And that's the challenge here. We do, in many ways, live in an interconnected world. Trump is saying he can sort of end that and help Americans. I'm just not clear it's going to be that simple.
I was going to say, do you think that could even possibly happen in one day? Or is that a campaign slogan?
I mean, it's and both sides use campaign slogans, but that's a campaign slogan. Vladimir Putin is very shrewd. He's going to get the best deal he can. He knows that Trump has promised to end American military aid to Ukraine. That gives Putin enormous leverage. He'll push for the best deal he can get. They're gaining territory. So it's not clear this will end in a day or many days or even months.
Trump also campaigned on slapping up to 60% in tariffs on.
Okay, so let's listen to what Biden has to say real quick, because Bridget says Biden got energy now. You don't find that suspicious? Yes, I absolutely do. And I meant to talk to you all about that yesterday, that someone told me, because I hadn't really been paying attention, but my uncle said that Biden hadn't been stammering and stuttering all of a sudden. So let's see right here, because he's delivering remarks, and this is from 19 hours ago. So let's get out here and see if Biden's talking like he has some sense, because if he isn't talking crazy and stumbling and fumbling over his words, I'm going to get real suspicious.
Good afternoon. Today I have some good news to report from the Middle East. I just spoke with the Prime Minister of Israel and Lebanon. I'm pleased to announce that their governments have accepted the United States proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. I want to thank President Macron of France for his partnership in reaching this moment. For nearly 14 months, a deadly conflict raged across the border that separates Israel and Lebanon. A conflict that began the day after the October 7 attack by Hamas on Israel. Hours later, at 2 a.m. in the morning, Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations backed by Iran attacked Israel in support of Hamas. Let's be clear, Israel did not launch this war. The Lebanese people did not seek that war either, nor did the United States. Over the past year, including the days immediately following October the 7th, I directed the U.S. military to flow assets and capabilities into the region, including aircraft carriers, fighter squadrons, and sophisticated air defense battery to defend Israel and deter our common enemy at critical moments. Since the war with Hezbollah began, over 70,000 Israelis have been forced to live as refugees in their own country, helplessly watching their homes, their businesses, their communities as they're bombarded and destroyed. And over 300,000 Lebanese people have also been forced to live as refugees in their own country. In a war imposed on them by Hezbollah. All told, this has been the deadliest conflict between Israel and Hezbollah in decades. How many of Hezbollah's senior leaders are dead, including its longtime leader, Nasrallah? And Israel has destroyed Hezbollah's terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon as well, including miles of sophisticated tunnels, which were prepared for an October 7 style terrorist attack in northern Israel. But lasting security for the people of Israel and Lebanon cannot be achieved only on the battlefield. And that's why I directed my team to work with the governments of Israel and Lebanon to forge a ceasefire, to bring the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah to a close. Under the deal reached today, effective at 4 a.m. tomorrow local time, the fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. What is left of Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations will not be allowed, I emphasize, will not be allowed to threaten the security of Israel again. Over the next 60 days, the Lebanese army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt. And over the next 60 days, Israel will gradually withdraw its remaining forces. And civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
Okay, I think we've heard enough now. That's a 9-minute long speech, and I don't need to hear the rest of it to know that Biden is sitting up there talking real good all of a sudden. Okay, talking real good all of a sudden. Biden, you need to sit down somewhere. Okay, I told y'all all the world's a stage. Please pay attention. Okay, and so anyway, with that all being said, now as I told you guys, they were talking about all of a sudden talking about all of these UAPs and all this stuff. And this one guy comes out, Michael Herrera, said there's aliens coming up out of the ocean, honey. I can't make this stuff up. Said there's aliens coming up out of the ocean. So let's go to it. Then we're going to get into Project Bluebeam. Likes up, everyone, please like and share.
Hasn't been something that I've disclosed until recently in the help of Dr. Greer, among other people. So I appreciate your help with this. In 2009, my unit, which was most degraded infantry battalion in the entire Marine Corps, which was 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, was called in to do humanitarian assistance operations out in the Philippines, which was Operation Quetzana, which we were attached to the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, which conducts maritime operations all throughout Southeast Asia, in conjunction with the 7th Naval Fleet, which houses one landing helo deck, or LHD, among LPDs, which is what I was on, called a USS Denver. Ironically, that's where I'm from, so kind of felt like home. Now, during that operation in Quetzana in the Philippines, they had actually heard that a tsunami and earthquake hit the western part of Sumatra, which is western Indonesia, Padang City more specifically. Out of all the ships in the 7th Fleet, the ship I was on was the only one that was routed to that location, which was oddly strange. But then again, this is my first humanitarian operation, so I don't know the logistics of it. But the skipper of the ship would probably know that information. So this happened September 30th. We ended up getting called and dropped anchor around October 8th. We are briefed in the ward room, which is the officers' mess, where they eat like their cafeteria per se. And we're briefed that there is some of President Obama's family members that are present on either in the city or somewhere near there. They had a SEAL platoon that was ready to go to retrieve those people. Us knowing well that Indonesia is also the 2nd largest terrorist capital where they train these guys, and they'll send them up to whatever theater of operation where anybody wants a piece of the United States, they ship them up to go handle it. So we know that well, and we were then briefed that we were going to be armed during this operation, just to also provide security for the transportation coming to basically drop off medical supplies, sheltering items, food, purified water, things like that. So they ended up selecting certain Marines to go ahead and do this. We were only in sticks of six Marines, so it had NCOs on top of other Marines to help with that. So we again boarded CH-53 Super Stallions, which are gigantic helicopters. They're roughly 100 feet long. I love the design of them. It's my personal favorite. But we ended up boarding this on the ship, and we flew to the southwestern part of the city, which is Padang. Looked a lot different through satellite imagery that I've recently seen. Back then is a lot different, especially because most of it was decimated, on fire, rubble, flooded, you name it, basically the worst kind of scenario you could ever see. From then, once we touched down on this landing strip, it took probably about 2 minutes. And then again, the pilots got radio confirmation to go ahead and drop us into certain parts. So we again dropped to a hasty LZ, which took probably about 6-7 minutes to fly to from that position. And we dropped to a hasty LZ. We got off the bird, and what we were instructed to do at that point through the briefing was to push to a high ground at least to get better observation. As a Marine, the tactical advantage that you get from having a observation from a top point is you see everything clearly. You could also.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward because this is like 15 minutes and he's only 3.5 minutes in, and I don't really want to listen to the whole thing. So let's just get to the juicy part. What did they see?
somebody who came forward to Dr. Greer. I don't know who they are, but what they had told him and what he has told me is that this gentleman knows exactly what these were used for, because they had like a cylinder on the front, which is either for oxygen or what I had hypothesized was for vacuum sealing, which lead me to suspect that they were smuggling narcotics or drugs. Come to find out, it's more disturbing than that. This gentleman has firsthand account with this and says that it was for people. It's very disheartening, especially because that part of the world have already gotten ravaged, and it's something that is very hard to see right now because of what I've witnessed, and it's very disheartening. And this is why I'm up here. So they loaded these onto this platform that you can see right there, and as they got up there, like I said, I was going back and forth. These guys are still searching our stuff. They're still, pointing their weapons at us. And after the last two trucks that I saw that actually got into that platform unloaded, they had 4 guys in each truck that would unload everything. However they did it, I can't tell you because, again, I was focused on this as well. And these trucks drove off. As that happened, this platform actually rose up off the ground itself. The top part of the craft actually met it down in the middle like this, and it formed into one solid piece. It floated right above the tree line. As soon as it was able to break that tree line, it actually had on the corners of each of these, which was an octagonal shape craft, by the way, on each corner, it emanated a light. It was either red, yellow, green, or blue. Only those 4 colors I can distinctly remember. It didn't make any additional high-pitched sounds when it rose up. Once it got past that tree line, it shot over to the left, basically where the ocean was, at so fast, I would estimate probably 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles an hour instantaneous like that. There was no rotor wash, no exhaust that would disturb the trees, vegetation. The coconuts that were on these trees were not even touched. It produced no sonic boom. This thing was so fast. So as that happened, they basically had told us to turn around. As we turned around, kind of a couple things that went through my head at that point was that we're done. They actually started loading our magazines into our back into our vest in a way that would be hard to get them, to put them into a weapon and to actually, charge the weapon and actually put it around in the chamber. So they put those in. They actually slung our M16s on their back for us, but when they did it, Marine Corps not really issued the best gear, especially at that time. So the slings back then were, I would say, subpar quality, cut my neck pretty good. And they, kind of went in that motion and made sure they were secured so we couldn't really get them as easy. And they escorted us back up this slope. And they told us we were not allowed to look back. 2, that we were not able to talk about this. They were actually, 2 of the guys were actually talking about either, hey, should we smoke these guys right now? That's what they kept saying. It was kind of feeding more into the fear at that point because, again, I don't know who these guys are. I know they had American gear. They had American sidearms as well. If these guys have actually taken an oath like we have, and then why they're going against people like us and even willing to kill servicemen who just even stumbled onto this, it just blows my mind, and it's very sick. So as we broke atop this hill, we decided to book him, and we ran back to the LZ. There was a gunnery sergeant that was attached to the ship. I don't know this gentleman personally, but I know he's very unhappy with seeing us because we had actually had our weapons slung. We were not combat effective at that point if we needed to be. He asked specifically why we were. We didn't tell him exactly why. We just came up with an excuse. And then we waited for the next CH-53 to approach, and we got on board, flew back to the ship. We turned our weapons in back to the armory. We took our gear off back in our berthing, and we went upstairs to be debriefed by an admiral that I've never seen before. And it was kind of somebody who was out of place. I don't know if he has any kind of relevance to this at all, but if that's the case, if he does, I hope he comes forward with that information. It'd be very helpful. So as we're going to go ahead and fast track to a couple days later, which we end up in Subic Bay, which is like the party town in the Philippines. So we had 3 days there of liberty. The first night I come back, because we had to report back to the ship each night, we were not allowed to stay out in town. My rack was on my camera was on my rack, and the memory card that was in it was out, and my battery was out of the camera, missing as well. So all of that was missing. The only thing that was there was the camera. Mind you, I had my locker secured. I had other stuff that was basically piled on top of that camera. So whoever did it knew what the hell happened. So after that, the other thing that was also notable with that was each of the Marines that were with me also had their cell phones taken that they brought. Even though they didn't bring them on the mission, all their stuff was missing. The other stuff, the other people in the actual platoon never had their stuff touched. It was only us 6 that were affected. So fast tracking back when we returned back to Okinawa, one day I had got a call from the duty that was in the barracks. Each barracks has like a duty of Marines that are, making sure there's still order, things like that. He had been told that I needed to go up to the CP, so he informed me. So I had hightailed it up there. And oddly enough, there was nobody in the building, except for one gentleman who was wearing Air Force dress blues that was missing a name tag, which I understand in the Air Force policy or regulations that they were supposed to wear a name tag, and he did not have wearing Air Force dress blues that was missing a name tag. He had pulled me into an office, and he has said, "You are not allowed to tell anybody in your chain of command. I don't care if it's a general. I don't care if it's anybody. You are not allowed to talk about what happened. You can go to prison for this, or you could be killed." He slid over a non-disclosure agreement. I was forced to sign that. I signed it. I tried to ask him who he was, and he would not tell me who he was. I have not spoken about it ever since I was able to recently because with the law passed. This is also an urging for anybody in Washington, D.C. as a political figure. Please get this under control because there are people who are either being hurt or killed by this.
Well, that clearly sounds nefarious. Okay, they told him he could be hurt or killed. And he better not even tell his own general and made him sign a non-disclosure. Honey, I would have signed it under duress, okay? And went back and told the general or whoever was in charge as soon as I got back. Okay, please make it all make sense. This is all crazy. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, it sounds very nefarious. Okay, please pay attention. Now let's have a word from my sponsor. Then we're going to get into this PowerPoint about Project Bluebeam. Okay, this will make it all make sense, I'm sure, because here's the thing. By the fact, and I told you all this a couple of years ago, because they recently started talking about these aliens and all this stuff and UFOs and whatnot around, if memory serves me correct, about 2021, somewhere around that era. Around 2021, they started having these talks and discussions. And then I told you guys, are they planning some sort of fake alien invasion? Because I have several questions. Are they prepping us? Because they do everything for a very specific and already pre-planned reason. Okay. So are they prepping us for some sort of planned alien invasion? Okay. I have several questions. But with that all being said, let's have a word from my sponsor. Lights up, everyone, please. Thank you.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so you can purchase 12 Tribes at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. And for the men, don't forget that she also sells a lovely beard oil for your beard. Okay, so listen, at the end of the day, they're up to something. Okay, Rogarito says, yes, planned invasion, proven facts. They use advanced technology to scare us. Yes. You see, there's a man by the name of Serge Monast who came out years ago and was talking about something called Project Bluebeam. He supposedly had top secret information. Now, with that all been said, let me just say this. This is all a conspiracy theory, just as the information I gave you on yesterday about David Goldberg and what he predicted, even though the things he predicted absolutely have come true, it's still a conspiracy theory, okay, according to the fact checkers. So with that all been said, this Project Bluebeam is a conspiracy theory, so don't believe a word of it. Okay. Now, so anyway, he came out and he was talking about these things. Read the Bible. The aliens are demons, earthly creation of fallen angels. They're already here bringing those practicing witchcraft, sorcery, and spiritism into judgment. Is that right? Well, I happen to disagree, beloved. Because in fact, I think that if they have a fake, alien invasion or whatever, we people who look like me, we should know that it's fake. We should know if it's fake or not. Because the real extraterrestrials, I'm sorry, they look like me. Okay, they are black. Now, there has been several credible sources that have said so. There was an astronaut years ago who came out and said the people manning those spacecrafts were black. And they were about 7 feet tall. And I absolutely believe it. And then another thing is, I mean, because think about it, the universe is made of melanin. Wouldn't it make sense that melanated people are up there? Okay, and then also there was a group of children in South Africa decades ago, maybe in the 60s, and these were Caucasian children in South Africa who said this. They were at a school and they claimed that they were outside. There was a whole interview about it. Okay, I'm not making this up, but they were outside playing or something during recess, and they talked about some sort of craft that landed, and there was these creatures on there that were also black. Okay, so I'm convinced. I'm convinced. Okay, Ulysses says that we're Anunnaki. Exactly. I absolutely agree with that too. So that I've been saying, and here's the thing: I've had several dreams throughout my lifetime, multiple dreams of extraterrestrials coming to get me. Okay, I'm so serious. I'm walking home. It's the same dream every time. I'm walking home. It's at night. And then all of a sudden, there's a light shining on me like a spotlight. And I look up and it's a spacecraft. And they're speaking to me telepathically. You know, they're speaking to me telepathically and they're saying, it's time to come home. You need to come with us. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go. And I start running as fast as I can. And they're just in the spacecraft moving slow, but still keeping up with me. It's all crazy. Now, I remember. See, Purple X said, so have I, Queen. Okay, so here's the thing. I saw this movie because I was telling somebody about this one day, and they told me to watch this movie called Jonah. Have you all seen the movie Jonah? One's in the chat if you ever saw that movie. I think it came out maybe 3 years ago. But anyway, I had this former moderator. You all remember my moderator, Buginis. So one day, Buginis called me and he said, Queen, I had a dream that extraterrestrials came to get you in a spacecraft. Now, I'm sorry. Why is he having this dream that I've been having all my life? I'll make it make sense. Okay. And if you follow him on Twitter, you can ask him, or X. So anyway, he said that he had this dream that these extraterrestrials came to get me. And I had not told him about these dreams that I've been having. So where'd he get that from? Okay, I just want y'all to pay attention. And so he was saying that they came to get me and I didn't want to go. And there was multiple of them in different spacecrafts, right? And so Bugini said that I hopped in one of the spacecrafts after the extraterrestrial got out. I hopped in one and started driving it myself, trying to get away from them. And he said he was asking himself, how the hell does she know how to drive that thing? It was all crazy. Okay. So, okay. Nessie X said she saw the movie, Jonah. So in that movie, Jonah, it's a boy. He's about maybe 10 years old, I think. And so he's got something strange going on with him. Long story short, his mother, I think he's disabled. He has some kind of disability. But anyway, long story short, there is some sort of spacecraft that comes and tells him it's time to go home. Says it's time to come home. Just like they told me in my dream. Okay, so I'm just saying, honey, don't be surprised at whatever happens. Okay, don't be surprised whatever happens. But like I said, the fact that Cyrus said, our queen is blessed with the gift of sight. Thank you, beloved. I absolutely am. And that is a blessing, you know, and sometimes a curse. Because sometimes, here's the thing. Let me just tell you guys something. Sometimes I remote view things that are absolutely none of my darn business. Okay. And we'll talk about that momentarily. But here, in the meantime, before we get started with the PowerPoint, let me show you guys one more video. Okay. Lights up, everyone, please. Like and share. Here we go.
Archives of data, much of which I believe will likely have information that will help inform UAP. We need only look. And again, in an era with AI and ML, we can relatively quickly and easily go through it. So I think it's something that we should encourage NASA to do.
This is a presentation from the UATP task force. This is completely absurd. It's nuts, this level of censorship, of redaction on a document. It shows the redaction of how many reports they've collected, for how many years. 2 of the 3 potential explanations are blacked out. The Pentagon, the intelligence community is treating us like children. It's time for us to know the truth about this. I think that we can handle it.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes or no?
Yes.
In your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs placed on leave and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again.
I really believe that we should use this hearing as a catalyst to improve and bolster our air defense capabilities and our maritime domain awareness capabilities, because obviously there are holes in it, whether it be UAP of non-HI direction or NHI direction, or like as you say, sir, China or any other adversary.
Now to Washington and new questions about whether the government is covering up evidence of UFOs.
I had an experience.
A congressional hearing straight out of a science fiction movie.
All to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos.
Lawmakers calling for more transparency around UAPs, or unidentified anomalous phenomena. That's the term the government now uses instead of UFO.
What do you believe UAPs could be or are?
Strong evidence that they are non-human, higher intelligence.
An intelligence officer last year claimed the Pentagon has been hiding knowledge of alien activity for decades.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to.
Luis Elizondo, who headed a Pentagon program investigating UAPs, now doubling down on his claims.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes or no?
Yes.
Elizondo saying the alleged extraterrestrial presence poses a national security threat.
Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe.
And saying he believes many classified materials should be shared with Congress and the public.
If this was an adversarial technology, this would be an intelligence failure eclipsing that of 9/11 by an order of magnitude. I believe that we as Americans can handle the truth. And I also believe the world deserves the truth.
The hearing lacked any direct evidence, with witnesses who have said they'll only speak about certain subjects behind closed doors. So the result of yesterday's hearing, well, one congresswoman says it could open the door to more hearings.
Okay, so it clearly sounds nefarious. Now, I played another video because I have some people moving stuff upstairs and they're making lots of noise intermittently. Okay, so with that all being said, Berta says the Anunukis were black. Well, that's exactly what they say. Now, here's the thing. Arjumand says they said that it would be a false flag. Okay. Michael M says, don't forget, Queen, this is spiritual warfare. Absolutely, honey. You know, I know it absolutely is. But I want you all to pay attention to something because, you know, there have been several times in history in recorded events where they talk about certain people seeing things. And these people came out later and said that they were told by the military, said that military people showed up at their house out of the blue, knowing that they saw something and told them, you know, basically, you better not say anything about it. And then maybe decades later, they talked about it. And also, I want you all to keep in mind, has anyone put a 1 in the chat if you've ever heard of a black person being abducted? Because I've only heard of one case, and it was in the 60s, and it was a black man, and he had a wife who was Caucasian. Okay, and they were abducted, and they were examining her, not him, according to what they both said. So has anyone ever heard of a black person being abducted by extraterrestrials? Because I have very much so questions about that. Okay. So you all putting ones in the chat have heard of black people being abducted, because I'm sorry, I haven't. Other than that man and his wife, and like I said, his wife was Caucasian, and they both said that they were experimenting, or you know, like basically they had her on a gurney and were like doing it, you know, just like what's the word I want to use? Like they were trying to figure out things about her, okay? Like they were doing some sort of investigative research on her or something, while he sat there and watched it all go down. So I just thought it was very interesting when I did all this research. Everybody who claims to have been abducted is Caucasian, never black people, which further leads me to believe that in fact they are black. Okay. They don't need to know about us because they already know who we are. Clearly. That's what it seems like. Okay. So please. Right. Andrew said Betty and Barney. Exactly. That's their names. Okay. That's their names. Okay. Danielle says, I did hear about that, Queen. Okay. So that's the only one that I've ever heard of. If you all have heard of another one. Oh, and then who put that in the chat about Admiral Byrd? Yeah. Dornicia said Admiral Richard Byrd. Yes. Now they tried to act like he was crazy. Now Admiral Byrd went to explore Antarctica, and while he was there, he says that he came upon a big pillar of ice, or like a big wall of ice, and it had like a hole in the middle, and he went through it. And then he said that once he went through it, his helicopter that he was in or whatever, it was basically moving really slow, and it slowly started lowering down to the ground. And these beings came out and spoke to him, and all of this, and I forget what all they were telling him, but this was all in his journals that was found also after he passed away. But when he told people about this, they were trying to act like this man was crazy, and I think he was highly decorated. Okay, but they tried to act like all of a sudden this man's talking crazy. So they clearly have tried to keep these things under wrap. And also it has been speculated, a conspiracy theory for years and decades, that President John F. Kennedy was taken out because of his desire to tell the American public about these UFOs. Now, I don't know if that's true. I can't substantiate it, but that has long been said. And then if that is true, I find it very interesting that now all of a sudden they're telling us about it and they're talking about these things. Okay, so please pay attention. It's all nefarious. Okay, so let's briefly go back to a bit of this government discussion they're having with the ex-Pentagon member.
Interfere with our nuclear equities and our nuclear readiness.
Is the United States government and our contractors, are they pulling technology from this? Or they're reverse engineering this?
Sir, as I previously stated, and please forgive me, I am not authorized to discuss specifics about crash retrievals. I signed documentation with the U.S. government. What I can say was, after a very thorough review process by the Pentagon, what I wrote about, and that was my limit, unfortunately, that I was given.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I would now like to recognize Mr. Timmons for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, you just said something interesting. You said they don't seem to be hiding. They don't seem to be hiding. The UAP sightings are becoming increasingly brash, if you will. And, we've been hearing about these for years, but they've generally been isolated and not as consistent and over critical military installations. Would you say that's fair? Is this becoming increasingly often? Is it happening more and more?
Great question, sir. Let me see if I can answer this for you. Certainly, there seems to be some indication that they're being provocative, meaning that they're, in some cases, literally splitting aircraft formations right down the middle. So that's an air safety issue. The question is it the frequency increasing? And the response is, it depends. Yes, it's possible that there is an increase in frequency, but it's also possible that there's heightened awareness now, and there's also more pervasiveness of technology out there that's collecting this information and that can record this information. So we're not quite sure yet if it's actually an increase in numbers of these events, or is it that we have better equipment now to record these things, and we have a better ability, if you will, to analyze these things.
And that's my next question. It seems that a lot of these sightings occur near military installations. Do you think that these UAPs are intentionally targeting military installations, or do you think that we have increased abilities to monitor surrounding the military installations?
Sir, maybe both. Part of my concern is we have something in the Department of Defense and the intelligence community called IPB, initial preparations of the battle space. And we use equities like ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or other type of equities and technologies to prep the battle space. And certainly, if I was wearing my national security hat, even if there was a 2% chance that there was some sort of hostile intent here, that's 2% higher than we really can accept. And so we must figure out, there's a calculus, capabilities versus intent, in order to identify if something is a national security threat. We've seen some of the capabilities, yet we have no idea the intent. And so this is why this discussion is somewhat, I think, problematic.
Okay, so hopefully they're done making all that darn noise. That's why I put the video back on. But listen, Tyrone Wiley, what do you know about Shaman Cradle Boutoir? Okay, clearly you have been doing some research, okay? Because I have listened to him many times, and I specifically remember about 20 years ago listening to the interview between him and David Icke. That was about 6 hours long, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, absolutely, Shaman Cradle Boutoir, who is Zulu, absolutely talked about extraterrestrials and said that he had in fact been abducted by them. And he told all sorts of information, and also that he had been threatened, not to tell some of these things. So with that all being said, let's get into this PowerPoint. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. See, I can tell who does research. People talking about Admiral Byrd, Shaman Cradle Boutoir, y'all be reading. See, that's what I'm talking about, because I have subscribers who have critical thinking skills. Okay, please pay attention. You can't put those lies over on them. Okay, like some of these folks be out here just lying to be lying. All right, so let's talk about it. I'm going to share my screen now. Y'all keep your fingers crossed, because I've been having an issue with my PowerPoint crashing a couple of times. So hopefully it won't crash. If it does, I'll just have to tell you the rest off the top of my head. Okay. So likes up, everyone, please like and share. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, now Serge Monast exposes Project Bluebeam. Now, this is a PowerPoint that I did like a year ago. For those of you who follow the spiritual channel, you already have seen this information. So let's get into it. Okay, so February the 17th of 2009. Now, this is an update from Ken Adachi. I'm only beginning to now fully grasp the entire breadth of Serge Monast's contributions to humanity and the unbelievable courage that he demonstrated in coming out with these incredible revelations, which were secretly or anonymously given to him by contrite politicians, military people, or intelligence people who still possess a conscience and a sense of humanity. A required companion piece to this article is an astoundingly accurate prophetic discourse, okay, presented by Serge in 1994 to the Canadian Free Press of Quebec, Canada. They planned, NASA that is, and the, I don't want to say that word, the Illuminati, okay, script that Serge revealed in that 1994 talk could be taken directly from today's headlines. Okay, so this man was a journalist, okay? And he had been researching Project Bluebeam. Now, he died of a heart attack within weeks, or there's more than one. It was Serge Monast and another journalist. They both died. Now, please pay attention, of heart attacks within weeks of each other, although neither had a history of heart disease. Now, don't y'all find that suspicious? Serge was in Canada. The other Canadian journalist was visiting Ireland, but they both died within a week of each other after this information. Prior to his death, the Canadian government abducted Serge's daughter in an attempt to dissuade him from pursuing his research into Project Bluebeam. His daughter was never returned. Okay, and then they say pseudo heart attacks are one of the alleged methods of death induced by Project Bluebeam. Now, again, this is all conspiracy theories. Okay, this is all satire. This is for entertainment purposes only, beloveds. Entertainment purposes only. Now, we specialize ourselves in investigating and publishing special reports and audio tapes to expose the underworld of the United Nations conspiracy to implement a, how do I want to say this? NWO. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Not old, but new, blank, and we'll say border. Take off the B. Now, our task is to, and from now on throughout this, if I say NWO, you know what I'm talking about. So our task is to make the people realize that the coming of the NWO is not a dream, neither a paranoid thought. It is a real satanic undergoing project. For what? Well, to abolish all Christian traditional religions in order to replace them by a one world religion based on the cult of man. To abolish all national identity and national pride in order to establish a world identity and world pride. To abolish the family as known today in order to replace it by individuals all working for the glory of one world government. To destroy all individual artistic and scientific creating works. To implement a world government's one mind sight. So basically, everybody thinking the same thing and absolutely being on one accord, and dare you think independently, okay, or have freedom of thought. Blue Beam Project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. Now, I want you to pay attention because this is picking up to where we left off yesterday. Basically, when I was talking about Trump declaring himself the king of Israel and ushering us in to the mark of the beast. Okay. So, with that all being said, Project Bluebeam has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the NWO. Okay, or I'm sorry, for the New World Government, without which religion, the dictatorship of the new or the NWO, is completely impossible. Okay. Now he says, I'll repeat that. Without a universal belief in the New Age religion, the success of the NWO will be impossible. That is why the Blue Beam Project is so important to them, but has been so well hidden until now. So engineered earthquakes, hoax discoveries. Okay, the first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown or the reevaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations on the planet of supposedly new discoveries, which will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines. The falsification of this information will be used to make all nations believe that their religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. And again, this is all satire, including for entertainment purposes only. Psychological preparations for that first step have already been implemented with the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, and Independence Day, all of which deal with invasions from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last films, Jurassic Park, deals with the theories of evolution and claim God's words are lies. Now, I want you all to pay attention because I've told you a myriad of times how they tell us things subliminally through movies and programs on television. That's why they're called television programs, because they program the mind. Okay, now hoax discoveries. What is important to understand in the first step is that those earthquakes will hit at different parts of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. Now, by those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover their arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all fundamental religious doctrines. This is the first preparation for the plan of humanity because what they want to do is destroy the beliefs of all Christians and Muslims on the planet. To do that, they need some false proof from the far past that will prove to all nations that their religions have all been misinterpreted and misunderstood. So the big space show in the sky. Now, the second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show with 3-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projection of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to their predominating regional national religious faith. This new God's voice will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must study various Secret Services research that was done in the last 25 years. Now, I want you to pay attention to what it says right there, because essentially what they're saying is that they're going to use the sky like a movie projector, and there's going to be a hologram, and they're going to show you an image of the God that you worship or the deity that you worship, and it's going to look like what you expect it to look like. So, for example, if you're a Christian, then you'll see an image that looks like Jesus. Okay, if you're a Muslim, then I guess you'll see something that Muslims would see, which would be Allah. Okay, or if you're someone who worships Buddha, then that's what you'll see, and it'll be speaking in the language that you speak. Now, this is all, like I said, satire and clearly for entertainment purposes only. Okay. Hold on. As a matter of fact, let me put that on here. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. All right, so with that all been said, let's continue. So the Soviets have perfected an advanced computer, even exported them and fed them with a minute physiopsychological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and the electromechanical composition of the human body and the studies of the electrical, chemical, and biological properties of the human brain. These computers were fed as well with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings. Now, the dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computers from satellite transmissions. Okay, the Soviets began to feed the computers with objective programs like the ones of the new Messiah. It also seems that the Soviets or the NWO people have resorted to suicidal methods with the human society of allocating electronic wavelengths for every person in every society and culture to induce suicidal thoughts if the person doesn't comply with the dictates of the NWO. Now, I want you all to pay attention because there were two movies that came out about something like this. There was one of them called The Happening, and that was in 2009. And then 10 years later, in 2019, they had The Bird Box. If you all remember Bird Box or The Happening, they're both really pretty much the same movie, just had a bit of difference. Now, in these movies, people were going outside and then they would just lose it and then take themselves out. Do you all remember that? And in Bird Box, it was when they went out there and looked up at the sun. So they had to go outside with blindfolds on to prevent themselves from wanting to take themselves out. And in The Happening, they didn't have to look at the sun. I think it was something that if they just went outside, they wanted to take themselves out. But pay attention because that's what this all sounds like. And remember again, the subliminals in movies. So there are two different aspects of step 2. Now, the first is the space show. Where does the space show come from? Well, the space show, the holographic images, those will be used in a simulation of the ending during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversary events. So it's going to be like getting caught up in the rapture is how I imagine that it would be for those who believe in, the rapture. But it's all going to be a show, just not even real. But it's going to be fooling a whole lot of people who don't know certain things. Allegedly, this is all satire. Again, entertainment purposes only. None of it's true. Now, these will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer about 60 miles above the Earth. We see tests every day, once in a while, but they're all called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. Now, the result of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the new Messiah, or Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the NWO religion. Okay, enough truth will be foisted upon an unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned will be deceived. So even those who are smart and knowledgeable, even they will be fooled. Now, the project has perfected the ability for some device referred to as tractor beams, okay, by ufologists, to lift up an enormous number of people, as in the rapture, and whisk the entire group into a never land. Now, think about this. Again, there's a movie with Keke Palmer that what was it called? What was that movie called with Keke Palmer? Don't Look Up. I think that's the name of it. Doesn't that sound like that? Okay, again, with the subliminals. Don't Look Up. Okay, so it's going to whisk up the entire group into a never land. And we see tests of this device in the abduction of humans by those mysterious little alien grays who snatch people out of their beds and through windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in all of human history. Now, the Blue Beam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event as that which occurred 2,000 years ago. And you know what occurred 2,000 years ago? That's when they say that Jesus walked the earth. okay, in the age of Pisces. Now, in principle, it will make use of the skies as a movie screen on the sodium layer at about 60 miles as space-based laser-generating satellites project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspect of the NWO and its deception and seduction on a massive scale. Now, computers will coordinate the satellites and software already in place. They will run the Sky Show. Holographic images are based on nearly identical signals combining to produce an image or hologram with deep perspective, which is equally applicable to acoustic ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomena. Now, specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to their specific national, regional religion, and not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depths of space. Astonished ardent followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned messiahs in convincing lifelike reality. Then the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc. will merge into one after correct explanations of the mysterious and revelations will have been disclosed. This one God, in fact, will be the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age NWO religion representing one God, Antichrist. Okay, they see before them. Naturally, this superbly staged falsification will result in dissolved social and religious disorder on a grand scale, each nation blaming the other for the deception, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. In addition, this event will occur at a time of profound worldwide political anarchy and general tumult created by some worldwide catastrophe. The United Nations even now plans to use Beethoven's Song of Joy as the anthem for the introduction of the new age one world religion. If we put this space show in parallel with the Star Wars program, we get this combination of electromagnetic radiation and hypnosis, which have also been the subject of intensive research. In 1974, for instance, researcher G.F. Shapitz said of one of the research proposals that in this investigation, it will be shown that the spoken words of the hypnotist may also be converted by electromagnetic energy directly and to the subconscious part of the human brain without employing any mechanical device for receiving or transcoding the message, and without the person exposed to such influence having a chance to control the information input consciously. It may be expected that the rationalized behavior will be considered to have been taken out of their own free will. So basically programming your thoughts. And remember, for those of you following the spiritual channel, I've told you many times that thoughts are electromagnetic energy and frequencies, and that your subconscious mind controls 95% of the things that you in fact do. So they're talking about programming this energy, electromagnetic energy, into the subconscious. Okay, so much so that people won't realize these are not their own thoughts, that these are thoughts that they're being programmed to, in fact, think. Artificial thought and communication. Now, the advancement of techniques propel us toward the third step in the Blue Beam Project that goes along with the telepathic and electronically augmented two-way communication where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind. Please pay attention. This sounds nefarious. Convincing each of them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages, and the rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we will call diffuse artificial thought. You ought to pay attention because Elon Musk has been talking about this. Elon Musk has been saying something very similar to this. Okay, and I think I showed you all the video. I'm gonna have to find it and show it to you at a later date, maybe tomorrow. But Elon Musk said something about. I think I did show it to you guys when I was doing the video playing the interview that I did with Sophia Stewart, the creator of The Matrix and Terminator. I think I showed you all that video, if I'm not mistaken, where Elon Musk was talking about things being programmed into people's minds and them not even knowing it. Now, that kind of technology goes into the 1970s, the 80s, and 90s research where the human brain has been compared to a computer. Information is fed in, processed, integrated, and then a response is formulated and acted upon. Mind controllers manipulate information the same way a computer for grammar manipulates information. In January of 1991, the University of Arizona hosted a conference entitled the NATO Advanced Research Workshop on Current and Emergent Phenomena and biomolecular systems. What does that mean exactly? Well, I'm so glad you asked. It means this. We refer to one paper that was delivered at the conference, which stands out for its different attitude towards the development under discussion at the time. It was, in effect, a protest and chilling warning to the attending scientists about the potential abuse of their research findings. So their findings, of course, stated that the United States has already developed communications equipment which can make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk. It can relieve the terminally ill from pain without the use of drugs or surgery. And I'm not talking about science fiction. A man might retain the use of all his faculties right up to the moment of his death. This communications equipment depends upon a completely new way of thinking or looking at the human brain and neuromuscular systems and radiation pulses that at ultra low frequencies. Now, some of this equipment is now operational within the Central Intelligence Agency, in other words, the CIA, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Okay, it will never be used to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk because it is central to the domestic political agenda and foreign policy of George Bush and his puppet masters of the NWO. And again, this is all just pure satire. None of it's true. This is for entertainment purposes only. Domestically, the new communications equipment is being used to torture and delete people who match profiles imagined to be able to screen a given population for terrorists, to torture and delete citizens who belong to organizations which promote tolerance and peace and development in Central America, to torture and delete citizens who belong to organizations who oppose the development and deployment of nuclear weapons, and to create a race of slave cult automations, or what is popularly called the Manchurian candidates. Overseas experimentation is taking place on hostages held by the United States and Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Finland, and France. Additionally, there has been a long series of bizarre suicides among British computer scientists, all of whom have had some connection to the United States Navy. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, government agencies and the corporations that work with them toward an NWO are prepared to promote anything that will help them achieve their objective of total social control. As for the question of why, for one thing, if you terrify the public and make them fear for their own safety, they will allow you to implement draconian law enforcement practice, disarm them, and keep extensive records on them. And they only have to tell you that it is all to protect you, of course. Remember, they told us that before. This is all for your own good. This is to help you, to protect you. Okay, please pay attention. Secondly, it promotes the decay of the present democratic forms of political systems and leads societies to search for alternative methods of political ideology. Of course, the alternative has already been planned. It is called the NWO, and it will not have your safety or interest at heart. As George Bush said, read my lips. Fear has always been used by powerful elite to control and subjugate the masses. The old maxim, divide and conquer. And remember, I told you all a myriad of times that divide and conquer is the best strategy that they ever use in the United States. And that's why they continue to do so. Because you can keep control of people if you have them all fighting and bickering amongst themselves foolishly while they're the ones that are really in control of everything, they're real puppet masters, are just doing whatever they do and nobody's paying them any attention because everybody's down here all caught up with race, and just going against each other and all of this stuff. And it's all by design. So the old maxim, divide and conquer, is being played out to the limits worldwide to ensure that everyone is frightened for their personal safety and to be suspicious of everyone else. This too is mind control. To go further in regard of the new technology, which is at the base of NASA's Blue Beam project, we have to consider this statement by psychologist James V. McConnell, which was published in the 1970s issue of Psychology Today. He said, "The day has come when we can combine sensory deprivation with a drug hypnosis and astute manipulation of reward and punishment to gain almost absolute control over an individual's behavior. It should then be possible to achieve a very rapid and highly effective type of positive brainwashing that would allow us to make dramatic changes in a person's behavior and personality." And what's interesting is that basically they talk about this brainwashing and all of this. At the end of the day, listen, when people are in fear is a form of mind control. And I think I've told you this before. I know I've told my people on my spiritual channel that fear is simply a form of mind control. Low vibrational emotions are mind control. Okay. If you fear something, sometimes you feel like you can't move, like you're paralyzed with fear. Fear can prevent you from doing certain things that you need to do, makes you afraid to even try. That's mind control. If you think about someone who's depressed, depression is mind control. You can't raise your vibration. You're always worried and just feeling forlorn and downtrodden. You can't be happy. No one can make you happy. Everything's always negative. That's mind control. Okay. So this sounds like that. All right. And mind you, I didn't read that anywhere. That's just something that the Most High gave me. It was an epiphany. And you see, like I told you guys yesterday, that's how I can tell when someone's mimicking my talking points, because some of the things that I say, I absolutely came up with my own discernment and my own theories, excuse me, my own theories, just based on how I think and perceive things. Okay. So please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, now, when we talked before about that kind of ray and the telepathic and electronically augmented communication, the kind of rays that are fed from the memories of computers, which store massive data, and this data is about humans, human language and dialects. And we said that the people will be reached from within, making each person to believe that his own God is speaking directly from within him or her from their own soul. We refer to this kind of technology and that kind of thinking that some psychologists were espousing. That is, we should be trained from birth that we should all do what society tells us or wants us to do rather than what we want to do for ourselves. That's programming, indoctrination. Please pay attention. That because they have the technology to do it. No one should now be allowed to have their own individual personality. Now, this statement and these ideas are important because it is the basic teaching of the United Nations that no one owns his or her own personality, and that some psychologists claim that no one has any say-so about the kind of personality they acquire, and there is no reason to believe that you have the right to refuse to acquire a new personality if your old personality is considered as antisocial. What is important in this declaration is that the NWO will be set up over the current system, meaning the old way of thinking and behavior and religion will be considered the old and incorrect way of thinking, and that they can change it at one of the eradication camps of the United Nations to make sure that anyone with this antisocial behavior will be disposed of quickly so that other modified individuals will be able to fulfill the needs and agendas of the NWO without being distracted by the truth. So truth speakers and truth seekers, okay, those are the people they're talking about. This all sounds so egregious. Now, the NASA Blue Beam Project is the prime directive for the new or the NWO. their absolute control over the populations of the entire earth. I would suggest you investigate this information carefully before dismissing it as fanatic lunacy. If we go further in the different reports we have presented, we find that the mind control operations and technology include a transmitter that broadcasts at the same frequency as the human nervous system, which transmitter is manufactured by the Laurel Optical System in Pasadena, California. Laurel, a major defense contractor, has previously conducted research on directed energy weapons for Lieutenant General Leonard Perez of the U.S. Air Force, who was searching for a weapon that could implant messages into the minds of the enemy while urging his own troops onto superhuman deeds of valor. The device employs electromagnetic radiation of gigahertz frequencies, also called microwaves, pulsed at extremely low frequencies. Okay, that's what ELF stands for, extremely low frequencies. It is used to torture people both physically and mentally from a distance. Weapons of this type are thought to have been used against a British woman protesting the presence of American cruise missiles at Greenham Common Air Base during the 1970s. This weapon can be used to induce total sensory deprivation by broadcasting signals into the auditory nerve at such high power that it blocks the ability of the individual to hear themselves think. The process employed by such ELF technology are described in various U.S. Defense Department publications, including one entitled The Electromagnetic Spectrum and Low Intensity Conflicts by Captain Paul E. Tyler, Medical Commandant, U.S. Navy, which is included in a collection entitled Low Intensity Conflicts and Modern Technology Edicts by Lieutenant Colonel David G. Dean, USAF. The paper was delivered in 1984 and the collection published in 1986 by Air University Press, Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama. Another pulse microwave device can deliver audible signals directly to an individual while remaining undetectable to anyone else. The technology is very simple and can be built by using an ordinary police radar gun. The microwave beam generated by the device is modulated at audio frequencies and can broadcast messages directly into the brain. Now, here we come to the NASA Bluebeam project. The broadcasting of subliminal two-way communication and images from the depths of space correspond directly to that kind of technology, letting you know that they already have it. Now, in his book, The Body Electric, Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Robert O. Becker describes a series of experiments conducted in the early 1960s by Alan Fry, where this phenomena was demonstrated, as well as later experiments conducted in 1973 at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp, who personally underwent tests in which he proved he could hear and understand messages delivered to him in an echo-free isolation chamber via a pulsed microwave audiogram, which is an analog of the world's sound vibration beamed into his brain. Becker then goes on to state, such a device has obvious application for covert operations designed to drive a target crazy with unknown voices or deliver undetectable instructions to a programmed assassin. Now, let me tell you guys something. This sounds remarkably similar to the Navy Yard shooter Aaron Alexis, who claims that he heard auditory voices in his head. Okay? And then he went on that spree. Now, also, if you ever used to watch Jesse Ventura's show Conspiracy Theories, he had someone on there who had this device known as the voice of God. And then they put it on Jesse Ventura's head and he could hear something. I might have to try to dig that video up and show you guys so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But they put this thing around his head or whatever, and all of a sudden he could hear something. Okay, like something was speaking to him or something like that. It was all crazy. So Alan Fry also reports that he could speed up, slow down, or stop the hearts of isolated frogs by synchronizing the pulse rate of a microwave beam with the heart itself. According to Dr. Robert Baker, similar results have been obtained using live frogs, which shows that it is technically feasible to produce heart attacks with rays designed to penetrate the human chest. Okay, now think about that. This is all nefarious because the two journalists who were talking about this stuff died from heart attacks within days of each other. Y'all don't find that suspicious? Because I clearly do. But again, this is all satire. Please pay attention. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, it has been demonstrated that focused ultra-high frequencies, known as UHF, electromagnetic energy beams, can be used to induce considerable agitation and muscular activity or induce muscular weakness and lethargy. Microwaves can also be used to burn human skin and aid the effect of drugs, bacteria, and poisons, or affect the function of the entire brain. These effects were all revealed at length by the CIA on September the 21st of 1977 in testimony before the Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who directed the MK Ultra program, and y'all know about that, at that time was forced to discuss the scope of the CIA's research to find techniques of activation of the human organism by remote electronic means. So this is something that exists right now as we speak, that has been pursued to its highest degree, that can be used from space to reach any person, any place on the face of the earth. So just think about it. This stuff's up in space in a satellite or what have you. If we go deeper into that process of mind control over the people, we find that the equipment and technology has been used to influence politics in a much more direct fashion. Michael Dukakis, the Democratic candidate running against George Bush in the 1988 election, and this is George Bush Sr., of course, was targeted with microwave technology in order to impede his public speaking performance. Sounds like Joe Biden. Okay, in order to impede his public speaking performance, once the public opinion polls showed that he posed a serious threat to Bush's campaign. Okay, so all of a sudden, when they felt like he posed a threat to Bush's campaign, he all of a sudden started having speech impediments. Okay. So he also claims that the equipment was used against Kitty Dukakis and drove her to the brink of suicide. In the Disneyland world of U.S. politics, a presidential candidate with problems such as these would obviously lose their race to the White House. Is that why they took Biden out? Okay, in the December 1980 edition of the U.S. Army Journal called the Military Review, a column by Lieutenant Colonel John B. Alexander entitled The New Mental Battlefield, Beam Me Up, Spock, provides further insight into the technical capabilities at the disposal of the comptroller. Now, I want you all to pay attention because I just showed you all Biden talking real sensical and not having any sort of gaffes or anything, or, talking like he would normally talk. Now, perhaps I would just think that this is what it sounds like. Now, I'm not saying this is what they did because remember, this is all satire. None of it's true. But if this were real, wouldn't that be interesting? Because that would kind of seem like what Biden had done to him. And maybe that would be, we would think possibly if it were true, of course, and it's not clearly, but we would think that that's what happened to Biden. And that's why Kamala had to take over. And at the end of the day, it was already planned by them for, in fact, Trump to win. Okay? Because think about it. If Biden had ran, would it have been plausible that Trump would have won? I don't think so. So that all been said, let's continue. Now he writes saying several examples will demonstrate areas in which progress has been made. The transference of energy from one organism to another, the ability to heal or cause disease to be transmitted over a distance, thus inducing illness or death from no apparent cause, telepathic behavior modification, which includes the ability to induce hypnotic states up to a distance of 1,000 kilometers have even been reported. The use of telepathic hypnosis also holds great potential. This capability could allow agents to be deeply planted with no conscious knowledge of their programming. In movie terms, the Manchurian Candidate lives and does not even require a telephone call. Other mind-to-mind induction techniques are being considered. If perfected, this capability could allow the direct transference of thoughts via telepathy from one mind or group of minds to a select target audience. Okay, so just telling people what to think, projecting their thoughts onto yours, and you wouldn't even be the wiser. The unique factor is that the recipient will not be aware that thought has been implanted from an external source. He or she will believe the thoughts are original. This sounds like demonic possession. I want you all to pay attention. It sounds like demonic possession because here's the thing. With demonic possession, people don't realize, or even not even just possession. Sometimes it's just demonic oppression, okay, which is one of the 3 stages of demonic possession. And then sometimes these people that have these thoughts of taking themselves out because they're depressed and all those things, they think that those are their own thoughts. Most often, if not all the time, those are malevolent spirits and entities putting those thoughts in their heads, telling them, yeah, go ahead, do it. And then when you think about it, we've subliminally seen this since we were kids. If you remember watching cartoons where they'd have the little devil on one side and the angel on the other, and it's telling the person, do this. The devil's telling them, do this. Go ahead, do it. Like persuading them to do something nefarious. And the angel said, no, don't do it. That's not right. You're not supposed to do it. That was basically subliminal messaging. Okay, that was showing you the consciousness of a person. On the one side, you have the consciousness telling you, to do something, and then you have the other side telling you not to do it. This is clearly what that sounds like. Okay, this all sounds nefarious. And so, with that all being said, now it goes on to say the third step in the NASA Bluebeam project is called the telepathic electronic two-way communication. Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander's article continues, and he says, if it is possible to feed artificial thought into the multigenic field via satellite, the mind control of the entire planet is now possible. An individual's only resistance would be to constantly question the motivation behind their thoughts and not act upon thoughts which they consider to be outside their own ideological, religious, and moral boundaries. Now, once again, it is wise to consider how television, advertising, modern education, and various types of social pressure are used to manipulate those boundaries. It has been reported by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander, who said in the summary of his military review article, it has been said that the information on those kinds of technologies presented here would be considered by some to be ridiculous since it does not conform to their view of reality. But some people will still believe the world is flat. Now, this means a lot because if people do not believe this kind of technology is possible or that it is science fiction, these people put themselves in great jeopardy because on the night when those thousands of stars will shine from space, during the night when the new Messiah will be presented to the world, they will not be prepared and they will have no time to prepare to save themselves against that kind of technology. They don't believe and they won't have time to prepare. That's why I told you all yesterday, you better wake up before you die in your sleep. Universal supernatural manifestations via electronics. Now, the fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation with electrical means. It contains 3 different orientations. One is to make mankind believe that an alien or off-world invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all those nations which launch nuclear weapons to disarm when the invasion is shown to have been false. So they'll just, this is crazy. Let me read that again. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all those nations which launch nuclear weapons to disarm when the invasion is shown to have been false. And how will the United Nations know that the invasion was false? Because they will have staged it, of course. They'll have done it themselves. And then they'll say, oh, well, that was fake. The second is to make the Christians believe that the rapture is going to occur with the supposed divine intervention of an alien off-world civilization coming to rescue earthlings from a savage and merciless demon. Its goal will be to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the NWO. Pay attention to that part. Its goal will be to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the NWO in one major stroke, actually within hours of the beginning of the Sky Show. So for those who don't believe, for those who don't fall for it, it will be for their disposal, is basically what he said. The third orientation in the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at the time will allow supernatural forces to travel through optical fibers, coaxial cables, TV, electrical, and phone lines in order to penetrate to everyone at once through major appliances. Embedded chips will also already be in place. The goal of this deals with global satanic ghosts projected all around the world in order to push all populations to the edge of hysteria and madness, to drown them into a wave of suicide, murder, and permanent psychological disorders. After the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to reestablish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of abdication of freedom. Phasing out cash and independence. Now, the techniques used in the fourth step is exactly the same used in the past in the USSR to force the people to accept communism. The same technique will be used by the United Nations to implement the New World Religion and the NWO. A lot of people think when this is going to happen, and how they will accomplish the visions of the night of the 1,000 stars and the events that will point to the days when it will begin. According to the many reports we have received, we believe it will begin with some kind of worldwide economic disaster. I want you all to think about Trump's tariffs. I want you all to think about Elon Musk, because Elon Musk was caught saying, I think it was a leaked audio or whatever, where he was saying there's going to be suffering for a while or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, and of course, this is all satire. Not a complete crash, but enough to allow them to introduce some kind of in-between currency before they introduce their electronic cash to replace all paper or plastic money. Okay? Pay attention. Are you all realizing that this is tied to yesterday's broadcast yet? Now, the in-between currency will be used to force anyone with savings to spend or turn in their cash, because they understand that people who have money and are not dependent upon them might be the very ones who will mount an insurrection against them. Okay? If everyone is broke, no one can fund a war of any kind. Paper currency will cease to exist. This is one of the first signs. But to implement the worldwide electronic money system, everyone in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. Before that time, everyone will have spent, before the year 2000, all of their cash, reserves, and assets. Everyone has to be 100% dependent upon the council for their existence to prevent any kind of independence, and the NWO has already implanted microchips in wild animals, birds, fish, etc. Why? They want to make certain that the people who will not accept the NWO will not be able to hunt or fish anywhere in the world, so they can track these things. Okay, think about this. If they put these chips in animals, birds, and fish, etc., then if you're going out hunting for food or fishing, then they'll know exactly where you are. Okay, now it goes on to say, so they will not be able to hunt or fish anywhere in the world. If they try, they will be tracked and traced by satellites, then hunted down and imprisoned or killed. The NWO is already changing the laws of all nations to make everyone dependent upon a single food and vitamin supply. They're changing laws about religion and psychiatric disorders in order to identify anyone who is potentially threatening to the NWO. Those who are found defective will be sent to an eradication camp where their organs will be taken and sold to the highest bidders. Those who are not killed outright will be used as slave labor or used in medical experiments. The goal of a dictatorship is to control everyone on the planet, ruthlessly and without exception. That's why the new technology being introduced everywhere is a technology for the control of the people. The technology of the 1940s and 50s was used to help the people have an easier and more productive life. But this ain't that, clearly. Now, the new technology is designed and built to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for a specific purpose, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire populations of the world, is to deny the emergence of an antichrist and the establishment of the NWO religion and government. If you cannot see, if you cannot learn, if you cannot understand, then you and your family and your friends will succumb to the fires of the crematoria that have been built in every state, in every major city on earth, built to deal with you. No one is safe in a totalitarian police state. Signed, Serge Monast. Oh, honey, this is all nefarious. All nefarious. I'm just so glad this isn't true. Okay, this is all satire. Okay, this is all satire. Please pay attention. Okay, so what do you all think after hearing all of that? Green beans, potato said this is crazy. It absolutely is. Okay. Nia said, so people can't even live off the grid. Oh, beloved, it's illegal to live off the grid. Thanks to Obama. And you can't be living off the grid anymore. That's what we can't do. Danielle said, just demonic. Absolutely. The lovely T said, hope not, Queen. Sharon said, wow, sad. You know, like I said, this man told this decades ago. The Golden Child says, another form of fear mongering. I'm not falling for it or worrying about it. They made the people of Nigeria turn in their money. No one is talking about it, Queen. They made them turn in their money? Really? That's very interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. But of course, DC says the Terminator 2. Danielle said, I'd rather be dead than live like that. Well, most people probably would. Okay. Red Wine said they're going to still try to run it, the playbook, but we're not falling for it. Okay. Cookie said, this is a lot of information. Yes, it is, right? But Vote Blue, no matter who, said this would have been stopped with Kamala. If you don't sit down somewhere, Vote Blue, no matter who, if you don't have several seats, talking about this would have been stopped. Honey, don't you get it? They're all in on all of the plans. Okay. Now, not this plan because this is all satire, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, they all work together in unison. Okay. Fat Boo said, still waiting for my alien Uber. Black Sun said the movie Metropolis comes to mind. I've never seen that. So let me write it down. Maybe I'll try to catch that sometime over the weekend. Okay. This is all nefarious. So with that all been said, I wanted to bring this information to you because I thought it was very interesting how now they're talking about these UFOs and UAPs and all of this stuff or whatever. Okay. And it's just very interesting. And I have many questions. Terry Hinn said anything's possible with these demons. Arjuman Mahal said this has been in the works for decades. Princess Warwick said the Bible told us. Miss Eby said, look up Enemy of the State with Will Smith, Queen. I saw that. Didn't Vivica Fox play that? I saw it so long ago. Vote Blue, no matter who, said, well, I tried. Vote Blue, no matter who, sit down somewhere. You just want us all to think that Kamala was here to save us all, honey. I know. It's okay. December says, in some states, you can't even collect rainwater. Exactly. Now, I want you all to think about that. And I'm glad you brought that up. I want you all to really think about that. Why would it be illegal anywhere ever to collect rainwater? The other thing we should be asking ourselves is, as I told you all before, is why have they gotten rid of all the female trees? The female trees are the ones that produce the fruit. But we have all these male trees which only produce pollen, which is why so many people have allergies now. Are you all paying attention? Because they don't want us to be able to just go out there and grow our own fruits and vegetables. They don't want us to just be able to walk down the street or pull over on the side of the road and snatch up a few fruits. Okay? But they want us to pay for everything. These are things that should be absolutely free. Why do we have to pay for water? Water is a natural resource. Why is anybody being charged for water? Think about these things. This is all nefarious, and none of it should be going on, but yet somehow it is. Okay? Somehow it is. Okay? Andrew says, Queen, look up STS 088. I sure will. Let me write that down. Thank you, beloved. Okay, so anyway, okay, Miss Edie said it was Lisa Bonet and Will Smith. Okay, I thought Wait a minute. Was that Independence Day? Oh, Enemy of the State. So Vivica played in Independence Day. That's what it was. Okay, got you. Okay. Lisa Bonet with Will Smith. Right. Okay. So Fat Boo says, yes, I grew up in a country and we all shared what people bought in the store. Exactly. Okay. Green Beans Potato says, is this conspiracy theory or real? Beloved, I'm going to say that it's all satire. Okay. It's all satire. None of it's true. It's all just satire. Okay. This is just for entertainment purposes only. Wink, wink. Okay. Please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, the grift eyes here says, hard here says, they want a whole bunch of us gone. There's too many people on the right. Sounds about right. Okay, so listen, you all didn't find it interesting how the Georgia Guidestones all of a sudden got demolished. You didn't find that interesting. And let me tell you all something. It was very interesting to me because, prophetic and also very good discernment and intuitive. So I remember telling you guys back in 2021, and I think it was March of 2021, that I felt compelled to go and see with my own two eyes the Georgia Guidestones. And I did exactly that. And I recorded it. And I came back and did a whole presentation for you all to see and to show you what it said on there. Okay, what it said on there, like the rules for humanity. Okay, written in 7 different languages. Maybe I'll show that to you again tomorrow for those of you who missed it, because that was about 3 years ago. Okay. Marco says, Queen, please watch Arizona Wilder's interview with David Icke. Arizona Wilder. Okay, because I really like David Icke. They call him a conspiracy theorist, just like they called William Cooper a conspiracy theorist. But the things that he said back then have absolutely come to pass. Okay, December says, remember when Orlando Brown said, everything is here for free for you and for me? Yeah, and it should be, but sadly, that's not the case. Nathalie says, in January, I'm going to a rain barrel workshop. I'm collecting rain anyways. Screw the people. Okay, beloved. All right. So with that all being said, listen. I told you about that woman who was growing all those herbs in her yard, in her front yard, because she had health conditions, and how the city came and just tore it all down. Okay, just destroyed the entire garden. It was all so sad because she couldn't afford the pharmaceuticals. And also, she felt like the herbs, of course, would help better. And in the Bible, it does say that the herbs are for the healing of the nation, whilst pharmaceuticals come from the pharmacy, and the root word of that is pharmakeia, which means sorcery, witchcraft. And if you wonder why sometimes people take certain medications, prescription medications, and they give you the side effects and says may cause suicidal thoughts, you don't think that's very suspicious? You don't have to pause and ask yourself, wait a minute, what? What kind of medicine would cause me to have vivid dreams, okay, which lets you know that it's doing something to your mind, or to have suicidal thoughts, which also lets you know that it's doing something to your mind? Okay, isn't that nefarious when you just think about it? But again, it's witchcraft, it's sorcery. Okay, that's what it is. I keep telling you guys, they cast spells with words. Okay, they cast spells with words. And Terry Hinton says, I remember when you showed us the tour, it was cloudy that day you recorded. Yes, it was. It was windy out there too. It was windy. And and I had a good time because I met a very lovely couple there. Met a very lovely couple there whom I still keep in touch with to this day. They were from New York, and they were on the same type of time I'm on. Like the stuff that I be talking about, they were on that type of time. And so yeah. Andrew says RC Christian. Right. That was the pseudonym used by the person who built the Georgia Guidestones. Okay. So anyway, with that all being said, December White says, I saw your video, Queen. I remember that. Okay. So anyway, with that all being said, RG Titan says the 2 snakes are joining together on the hospital cross. Yes. You remember I told you guys that dream right before the pandemic? Who besides RG Titan remembers that? One's in the chat that I told you all back in 2020 before the pandemic. that I had a dream about two snakes slithered in my door, and one of them had the color of a black person's skin, and the other one of a Caucasian person's skin, and they were intertwined like they were fighting, but they looked like the medical symbol with the snakes intertwined. And I said, there's likely going to be some type of medical emergency. You guys remember that? You all are putting ones in the chat, okay? Because I told you guys, I said it looks like there's going to be some type of medical emergency, and then boom, days later they talk about the pandemic. I just want y'all to pay attention. I'm a whole oracle up here, honey. Okay. And that's why, like I told you before, I know when people are copying my talking points, okay, and trying to put on airs and act as if they're on any level of intellect as the queen. And then I'm not bragging, I'm just telling the facts. Okay. So that all being said, Seneca says, awesome information. You're simply the best. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Okay. So that all being said, I'm out of here. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Right now, there's going to be a video premiere coming up later around 6 o'clock. I had it scheduled for 3, but I changed it to 6. For those of you that saw my video the other day when I talked about all the multiple YouTubers calling out Tisa Tales for her nefarious lies, I cut the segment out of that video, and it's going to air by itself because that video was literally like 3 hours long. So the video that I was doing that day. So I cut that clip out, and it's going to air at 6 o'clock for anybody who didn't see how all these people are calling her out on her lies and BS. Okay. So anyway, enjoy the rest of this day, and don't forget to like and share on your way out. Okay. Robert says, thanks for the information, Queen. You're absolutely welcome, beloved. Okay. You're absolutely welcome. Fat Boo says, Queen, appreciate all your work. You're really awesome. Thank you, beloved. Okay. So listen, we the people said, love you to life, Queen. Thank you. And I love you all to life. Okay. So with that all being said, I'm out of here. Now, unless there's some breaking news, I probably won't be back today. Okay. Because I have some things to do. So I'm working on some stuff. I'm trying to get some things ready for this project that I have. Okay. So anyway, I will talk to you all again soon. And remember, beloveds, first of all, remember, we're in spiritual warfare. And remember, those of you who've been following me since day one, you remember that it was Thanksgiving Day 2020 when I gave you your first lifeline. And I've been giving them to you ever since. Okay. And so tomorrow will be the 4th year anniversary. So remember to follow those lifelines. Be sure you're stocking up on your non-perishable food items, your water. You should probably buy water every time you go to the grocery store, whether you need some or not. You never know what's going to happen. And because like I told you guys, in the event, so Tisa be lying. I follow her. Yeah, she does be lying. A bunch of people have called her out. I mean, sometimes she tells the truth, and sometimes she mixes truth with lies. And then a lot of times she copies the Queen's content and my talking points. And I don't care if we all talk about the same thing, that's all fine. But when you copy my specific talking points, I have a problem with that, and I'm gonna call you out every time. Okay, so that all being said, yes, make sure you're stocking up on the non-perishable food items and all of that. And also try to get a generator. Okay, you can get a smaller solar powered generator for about $250, I do believe. Okay, that's what someone told me. So make sure you have flashlights, batteries, candles, whatever you think you might need if the power grid goes down. Because I promise you, if it does, there's no telling how long it will be. And let's not forget that I told you in 2021 or 2020, somewhere around 2020, 2021, about those coronal mass ejections. Okay, and I told you what happened in the 1800s when they had one. Okay, so pay attention. All of these things, you just have to be mindful of and prepare yourself. And this is not fear mongering, it's just preparation. Okay, the lovely T said she's a bad copycat queen. Oh, I know, beloved. Oh, I know, right? Cookie said, Queen, I'm stocking up every day. Trust that. Okay. All right, on my way to the store now. Absolutely. And you got 2 generators. Okay, well, that's good. And remember, make sure you have friends, neighbors, and family members that you can barter with so that if they have things that you need and you have things that they need, or you know what I'm saying? If they have things that you don't have, basically, then you all can switch out or you can help each other out because that's what it's all going to be about. At the end of the day, these are trying times. And for those of you who didn't see the broadcast that I did maybe a year or 2 ago about the 4 horses, okay, of apocalypse, you might want to go watch that video. okay, on the spiritual channel, because I broke it all down, okay, in very good fashion. You might want to go watch that because we're in spiritual warfare. And those who follow the spiritual channel, we've talked about this a myriad of times. Okay, so anyway, let me get out of here. I love you all to life. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. And don't forget, always keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got